This wasn't just a movie vehicle. The Landmaster from 1977's Damnation Alley looked like something built for the end of the world. Massive, strange, and unforgettable. But behind that six-wheeled monster lies a series of insane facts most fans completely missed. Number 20. The Landmaster was fully functional, not just a prop. One of the wildest things about the Landmaster from Damnation Alley is that it wasn't just a hollow prop built for camera tricks. This massive six-wheeled machine was actually designed to move under its own power, making it one of the most ambitious practical vehicles ever constructed. For a science fiction film in the 1970s, the production team didn't settle for miniatures or static shells. Instead, they engineered a fully operational vehicle that could be driven across real terrain during filming. The Landmaster featured a complex drivetrain system that powered all of its wheels, allowing it to handle uneven ground and desert environments where much of the film was shot. Its massive size and weight required careful engineering to ensure it remained stable while moving. Steering such a vehicle was no small task, and it required skilled operators who could manage its unusual wheel configuration. This commitment to practicality gave the Landmaster a level of realism that would have been difficult to achieve with visual effects alone at the time. When you see it rolling across the wasteland in the film, that's not an illusion. It's a real machine doing real work, which is part of why it still feels so impressive decades later. Number 19. The Landmaster's six-wheel design was inspired by real military concepts. The Landmaster's unusual six-wheel configuration wasn't just a random creative decision. Its design was heavily inspired by real-world military and off-road vehicle concepts that focused on stability and mobility across extreme terrain. During the 1970s, engineers were already experimenting with multi-axle vehicles that could distribute weight more evenly and maintain traction in harsh environments. The filmmakers took this idea and pushed it further, creating a futuristic version that looked both believable and exaggerated. Each of the Landmaster's wheels was independently mounted, allowing it to adapt to uneven ground in a way traditional vehicles could not. This design helped the vehicle maintain balance even when one or more wheels encountered obstacles. It also gave the Landmaster its distinctive, almost insect-like movement, which added to its visual impact on screen. The wide stance and multiple contact points made it appear more stable and capable of surviving a post-apocalyptic landscape. For audiences, the design felt grounded enough to be believable while still looking futuristic and unique. This blend of realism and imagination is part of what made the Landmaster such an iconic vehicle. Number 18. The Landmaster used a complex steering system, unlike standard vehicles. Driving the Landmaster was nothing like driving a normal car or truck. Its six-wheel design required a completely different approach to steering. Instead of relying on a simple front wheel steering mechanism, the Landmaster used a more complex system that allowed multiple wheels to turn and adjust simultaneously. This gave the vehicle greater maneuverability despite its large size. The steering system had to account for the vehicle's weight, length, and unusual wheel arrangement. Operators needed to carefully control how the vehicle turned, especially in tight spaces or uneven terrain. This complexity made the Landmaster challenging to operate, requiring specialized training for those behind the controls. The benefit, however, was increased stability and control in difficult environments. The vehicle could navigate terrain that would be nearly impossible for conventional vehicles of similar size. This capability was essential for the film's setting, which featured harsh, unpredictable landscapes. The steering system was a key part of what made the Landmaster feel like a true survival vehicle, rather than just a visual prop. Number 17. The Landmaster's interior was partially built as a separate filming set.
I don't know what we're gonna find, but getting there is the only way we'll ever know.
While the exterior of the Landmaster was fully functional, filming inside it presented a different set of challenges. The real vehicle's interior was too cramped and restrictive to accommodate cameras, lighting equipment, and crew members. To solve this, the production team built a separate interior set designed specifically for filming. This set replicated the look and layout of the Landmaster's interior while allowing for greater flexibility. Walls could be removed or adjusted to create space for cameras and lighting. This made it possible to capture close-up shots and dialogue scenes that would have been difficult or impossible inside the actual vehicle. The set was carefully designed to match the exterior, ensuring continuity between shots. Details such as control panels, seating arrangements, and lighting were recreated to maintain realism. For viewers, the transition between exterior and interior scenes feels seamless. Behind the scenes, however, these were two completely different environments. This approach allowed the filmmakers to balance realism with practicality, ensuring that the Landmaster looked convincing both inside and out. Number 16. The Landmaster's size created major challenges during filming. The sheer size of the Landmaster made it one of the most difficult vehicles to work with on set. Its large dimensions and heavy weight required careful planning for every scene it appeared in. Transporting the vehicle to different filming locations was a complex process that involved specialized equipment and logistics. Once on location, the crew had to ensure that the terrain could support the vehicle's weight. Not all surfaces were suitable, and some areas required preparation before filming could begin. The Landmaster's size also affected camera placement and shot composition. Capturing the entire vehicle in frame required wide shots and careful positioning. In tighter scenes, filmmakers had to get creative with angles to convey its scale without overwhelming the shot. Despite these challenges, the Landmaster's size was also one of its greatest strengths. It gave the vehicle a commanding presence on screen, making it feel like a true survival machine in a hostile world. The effort required to manage such a large vehicle paid off in the final film, where the Landmaster stands out as one of the most memorable elements. Number 15. The Landmaster used 3 separate engines to power its massive frame. The diagram. What most viewers never realize is that the Landmaster wasn't powered by a single engine, like a normal vehicle. It actually used a 3-engine system, and that detail completely changes how you understand this machine. Each section of the Landmaster was essentially its own power unit, working together to move the vehicle forward. This setup wasn't just for show, it was a necessity. The vehicle was enormous, heavy, and built to traverse rough terrain, so a single engine wouldn't have provided enough consistent power. By dividing the workload across multiple engines, the Landmaster could maintain movement even if one section struggled with traction or resistance. This also helped distribute stress across the drivetrain, reducing the risk of mechanical failure during filming. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Coordinating 3 engines is not simple. The operators had to manage throttle inputs carefully to keep the vehicle moving smoothly. If one section delivered more power than the others, it could create instability or uneven movement. This made driving the Landmaster a highly technical task, requiring coordination and experience. The multi-engine design also added to the vehicle's unique movement style. It didn't glide like a car. It felt segmented, almost like a machine made of connected parts working in sync. That strange motion became part of its identity on screen. For audiences, the Landmaster looks powerful and unstoppable. Behind the scenes, it was a carefully balanced system of 3 engines working together to bring that illusion to life. Number 14. The Landmaster's wheels were designed to rotate independently for terrain adaptation. The Landmaster's wheels weren't just large, they were incredibly advanced for their time in terms of how they moved. Each of the 6 wheels could rotate and adapt independently to the terrain beneath it. This wasn't just a cool visual feature, it was a functional necessity for a vehicle designed to operate in unpredictable environments. Traditional vehicles rely on relatively fixed suspension systems, but the Landmaster took a different approach. Its wheels were mounted in a way that allowed them to pivot and adjust individually. This meant that if one wheel encountered a rock or dip, it could move independently without disrupting the entire vehicle's balance. The result was a machine that could maintain stability even on uneven ground. This design also gave the Landmaster its signature movement. It didn't roll smoothly like a truck. It moved with a deliberate mechanical rhythm, each wheel reacting to the terrain in real time. From a filmmaking perspective, this added a layer of realism that was difficult to replicate with simpler vehicles. You could see the machine working, adjusting, responding to its environment. That made it feel alive in a way most movie vehicles don't. The independent wheel movement also helped reduce strain on the chassis, all allowing the Landmaster to handle rough conditions without constant breakdowns. For viewers, it just looks impressive, but for the crew, it was a crucial feature that made the vehicle usable during demanding shoots. Number 13. The Landmaster was so heavy it could damage filming locations.
Pair of impressive all-terrain vehicles called Landmaster.
The Landmaster wasn't just big, it was extremely heavy, and that created real problems during production. This wasn't a lightweight prop you could move around easily. It was a massive machine that could literally damage the ground it drove over. During filming, the crew had to be very careful about where and how the Landmaster was used. Soft terrain could be torn up by its weight, leaving deep tracks and making it difficult to maintain continuity between shots. In some cases, locations had to be reinforced or prepared before the vehicle could be driven through them. This added time and complexity to the production process. Even hard surfaces weren't always safe. The pressure exerted by the Landmaster's wheels could crack or damage certain types of ground. This meant the crew had to constantly evaluate whether a location could handle the vehicle. The weight also affected how the Landmaster moved. It gave it a sense of inertia that made every movement feel heavy and deliberate. That's part of why it looks so imposing on screen. You can feel the mass behind it, but that same weight made it difficult to stop, turn, or reposition quickly. Every movement had to be planned carefully to avoid accidents or damage. For audiences, the Landmaster looks like a perfect post-apocalyptic machine. Behind the scenes, it was a logistical challenge that required constant attention. Number 12. The Landmaster's construction took months and required custom fabrication. Building the Landmaster was not a quick process. It took months of planning, design, and fabrication to bring this vehicle to life. The production team couldn't rely on existing vehicle platforms alone. Many parts had to be custom built to achieve the desired look and functionality. This included the chassis, wheel assemblies, and exterior panels. Engineers and fabricators worked together to create a structure that could support the vehicle's weight, while allowing it to move effectively. Every component had to be carefully designed to fit within the overall system. There was no off-the-shelf solution for something like this. The process involved trial and error, with adjustments made along the way to improve performance and reliability. The exterior design also required significant effort. The Landmaster's distinctive shape had to look futuristic and rugged, while still being practical for filming. This meant balancing aesthetics with engineering constraints. The result was a vehicle that looked like it belonged in a post-apocalyptic world, but was still capable of functioning in real life. The time and effort invested in its construction are a big part of why the Landmaster still stands out today. It wasn't just imagined, it was built. Number 11. The Landmaster became one of the earliest examples of practical sci-fi vehicle engineering. Long before modern CGI made it easy to create futuristic vehicles, the Landmaster set a precedent for practical effects in science fiction. It showed that you could build something ambitious and make it work in the real world. This approach influenced how later films approached vehicle design. Instead of relying entirely on visual tricks, filmmakers began to see the value in building functional machines. The Landmaster proved that practical engineering could create a level of realism that audiences respond to. When you see a real object interacting with its environment, it feels different. It has weight, presence, and unpredictability that digital effects often struggle to replicate. This made the Landmaster more than just a prop. It became a benchmark for what practical effects could achieve. Its legacy can be seen in later films that chose to build real vehicles for key scenes. For audiences, the Landmaster remains memorable because it feels tangible. You can believe it exists because, at one point, it actually did. That authenticity is what keeps it relevant even decades after its debut. Number 10. The Landmaster required a coordinated multi-driver control system to operate effectively. Control sections. Here's something that sounds almost unbelievable. The Landmaster wasn't always controlled by a single driver in the traditional sense. Because of its segmented structure and multi-section drivetrain, operating the vehicle smoothly required coordinated input that went beyond what one person could realistically manage in complex terrain. In certain filming situations, Multiple operators were involved, each responsible for different aspects of the vehicle's movement. One controlled the primary steering direction, while others monitored engine output, wheel behavior, and system responses. This wasn't like driving a truck. It was closer to operating a piece of heavy industrial machinery. The Landmaster's size and mechanical complexity meant that even slight miscalculations could result in jerky movement, misalignment between sections, or even mechanical stress. To prevent this, the team developed a coordinated approach where communication was constant. Operators had to anticipate each other's inputs, adjusting in real time to maintain smooth motion. This was especially important during scenes that required the vehicle to navigate uneven terrain or execute controlled turns for camera shots. The coordination also extended to timing. If one section of the vehicle accelerated too quickly compared to another, it could disrupt the balance and create instabilities. Yes, this made the Landmaster feel almost like a living system, where each part had to work in harmony with the others. For the crew, mastering this coordination took practice and precision. For the audience, it created a vehicle that moved in a way no ordinary machine could. The Landmaster didn't just drive, it operated, and that distinction is what made it so unique on screen. Number 9, the Landmaster's segmented body design reduced structural stress across its length. At first glance, the Landmaster looks like one long, continuous vehicle, but in reality, its body was divided into sections, and that design choice was critical to its functionality. Instead of building a rigid structure that could bend or break under stress, the engineers created a segmented body that allowed for controlled movement between sections. This design helped distribute stress more evenly across the vehicle. When traveling over uneven terrain, different parts of the Landmaster could flex independently rather than forcing the entire structure to absorb the impact at once. This reduced the risk of structural damage and improved overall durability. It also allowed the vehicle to maintain better contact with the ground, enhancing stability. Each segment could adjust slightly to changes in elevation, keeping the wheels engaged and the chassis balanced. This is similar in concept to articulated vehicles used in heavy industry, where flexibility is key to handling rough conditions. For the Landmaster, this segmentation was both a practical solution and a visual feature. It contributed to the vehicle's distinctive movement, making it look more complex and mechanical than traditional vehicles. You could see the sections working together, adapting to the environment in real time. This added a layer of realism that made the Landmaster feel engineered rather than imagined. It wasn't just a single block of metal rolling forward. It was a system designed to survive harsh conditions by distributing stress intelligently. Number 8. The Landmaster's exterior design was influenced by industrial machinery rather than cars. One of the reasons the Landmaster looks so different from the typical vehicles is because its design didn't come from the automotive world. Instead, it was heavily influenced by industrial machinery. When the designers approached the concept, they weren't thinking about cars or trucks. They were thinking about equipment built to survive extreme environments like mining machines, construction vehicles, and heavy-duty transport systems. This influence is visible in the Landmaster's angular shapes, exposed mechanical elements, and utilitarian appearance. There's very little about it that feels sleek or aerodynamic in the traditional sense. Instead, it looks rugged, functional, and purpose-built. Every surface seems designed with durability in mind, rather than aesthetics. This approach helped ground the vehicle in reality. Even though it exists in a post-apocalyptic setting, it feels like something that could have been built using existing engineering principles. The industrial influence also contributed to the vehicle's scale. It looks less like a car and more like a mobile structure. Something closer to a moving base than a mode of transport. This distinction is important because it changes how the audience perceives it. The Landmaster isn't just a vehicle. It's a survival platform, a machine designed to operate in conditions where normal vehicles would fail. That's why its design feels so believable. It doesn't rely on futuristic styling cues. It relies on real-world engineering logic. Number 7. The Landmaster's filming required synchronized camera vehicles to match its scale. Capturing the Landmaster on film presented a unique challenge. Its size and movement made it difficult to film using standard camera setups. To properly showcase its scale, the production team had to use specialized camera vehicles that could move alongside it. These vehicles were equipped with mounted cameras capable of tracking the Landmaster's movement in real time. This allowed filmmakers to capture dynamic shots that emphasize the vehicle's size and motion. Without these camera rigs, the Landmaster would have appeared slower and less imposing. The synchronized movement between the Landmaster and the camera vehicles was critical. Timing had to be precise to maintain framing and composition. If the camera vehicle moved too quickly or too slowly, it would disrupt the shot. This required coordination between drivers, camera operators, and directors. The use of moving cameras also helped convey the Landmaster's weight and momentum. By keeping the camera in motion, the filmmakers created a sense of energy that static shots couldn't achieve. This approach made the vehicle feel more alive and powerful. It wasn't just something sitting in the frame. It was something interacting with its environment. For the audience, this translates into a more immersive experience. You feel like you're moving with the Landmaster, experiencing its scale firsthand. Number 6. The Landmaster's presence influenced how post-apocalyptic vehicles were designed in later films. The Landmaster didn't just exist within Damnation Alley. It had a lasting impact on how filmmakers approached post-apocalyptic vehicle design. Before its introduction, many sci-fi vehicles leaned heavily on sleek, futuristic aesthetics. The Landmaster changed that by demonstrating the power of rugged, functional design. It showed that vehicles in harsh environments should look built, not styled. This influenced later films that adopted a more industrial approach to vehicle design. Instead of creating machines that looked like they came from the future, filmmakers began designing vehicles that looked like they were assembled from available parts, adapted for survival. This shift can be seen in numerous post-apocalyptic films that followed. The emphasis moved toward practicality, durability, and improvisation. The Landmaster set the tone for this evolution. It proved that audiences respond to vehicles that feel grounded in reality, even within fictional settings. Its design language became part of the visual vocabulary of the genre. When you see a large, rugged vehicle in a wasteland setting, there's a good chance its design owes something to the Landmaster. This influence extends beyond aesthetics. And it also affects how these vehicles are used in storytelling. They become more than transportation. They become symbols of survival, resilience, and human ingenuity. Number 5. The Landmaster's braking system relied heavily on gradual deceleration rather than sudden stops. Stopping the Landmaster was just as challenging as getting it moving. Unlike standard vehicles that can brake quickly and precisely, the Landmaster's massive weight and segmented design meant that sudden stops were not practical or safe. Its braking system was engineered to favor gradual deceleration rather than abrupt halts. This wasn't just a design choice, it was a necessity. When a vehicle of that size is moving, it carries enormous momentum. Trying to stop it too quickly could place extreme stress on the mechanical components, and particularly the joints connecting its sections. It could also cause instability, with different parts of the vehicle reacting at slightly different times. To avoid this, operators had to anticipate stops well in advance, easing the vehicle into a controlled slowdown. This required a different driving mindset. Instead of reacting instantly, drivers had to think ahead, planning each movement carefully. This characteristic also influenced how scenes were filmed. Action sequences involving the Landmaster were choreographed to accommodate its slower stopping ability. Camera angles and editing were used to make movements appear more dynamic, even though the vehicle itself was operating within controlled limits. The gradual braking added to the Landmaster's presence on screen. It didn't just stop, it settled, as if its mass had to be carefully managed. This gave it a sense of realism that reinforced its scale. For viewers, it feels powerful and unstoppable. Behind the scenes, every stop was a calculated maneuver designed to keep both the vehicle and the crew safe. Number 4. The Landmaster's lighting system was designed to enhance visibility in dusty environments. Operating in a post-apocalyptic setting meant dealing with challenging visual conditions, especially dust and low visibility. The Landmaster's lighting system was designed with this in mind. Instead of relying on standard vehicle lights, it featured a setup intended to cut through haze and illuminate the terrain ahead effectively. The lights were positioned strategically to maximize forward visibility while minimizing glare caused by dust particles in the air. Where in dusty environments, light can reflect off particles and reduce clarity, making it harder to see. The Landmaster's lighting aimed to reduce this effect by controlling beam direction and intensity. This was not just useful for the fictional setting, it was also practical during filming, where dust effects were frequently used to create atmosphere. The lighting helped ensure that both the vehicle and its surroundings remained visible on camera. This added to the realism of the scenes, making it easier for viewers to follow the action. The lighting also contributed to the Landmaster's visual identity. When illuminated, it looked even more imposing, with beams cutting through the environment like a moving fortress. For the crew, these lights were essential for maintaining visibility during shoots. For the audience, they reinforced the idea that the Landmaster was built to survive in extreme conditions. Number 3. The Landmaster's interior layout was designed to feel like a mobile command center. Unlike typical vehicles, the Landmaster wasn't just meant for transportation. Its interior was designed to function as a mobile command center, reflecting its role in a survival scenario. The layout included multiple stations for crew members, each with specific functions. This gave the impression that the vehicle could support long-term operations rather than short trips. The design emphasized practicality and efficiency. Controls, displays, and seating were arranged to maximize usability within a confined space. The interior also suggested a level of self-sufficiency, with areas dedicated to navigation, communication, and monitoring external conditions. This reinforced the idea that the Landmaster was more than just a vehicle. It was a base on wheels, capable of sustaining its occupants in a hostile environment. From a filmmaking perspective, this layout provided opportunities for dynamic scenes inside the vehicle. Characters could interact with different systems, creating a sense of activity and purpose. The interior design helped build the world of the film, showing how people might adapt to life in a post-apocalyptic setting. For viewers, it made the Landmaster feel like a believable piece of technology, something that could actually exist in such a world. Number 2. The Landmaster's movement style was intentionally made slower to emphasize its weight. One of the most distinctive aspects of the Landmaster is how it moves. It doesn't race across the landscape like a typical vehicle. Instead, it moves deliberately, with a slow, powerful motion that emphasizes its size and weight. This was a conscious choice by the filmmakers. Faster movement might have made the vehicle seem less massive, reducing its impact on screen. By keeping its speed relatively low, they allowed the audience to feel its weight and presence. Every movement appears intentional, as if the vehicle is carefully pushing through the environment rather than gliding over it. This approach also helped maintain control during filming. Slower speeds reduced the risk of accidents and made it easier to capture stable shots. At the same time, camera techniques and editing were used to enhance the sense of motion. Dust, sound effects, and framing all contributed to the illusion of power. Thus, the result is a vehicle that feels heavy and unstoppable, even when moving at moderate speeds. This balance between actual movement and perceived intensity is a key part of the Landmaster's success. It doesn't rely on speed to impress, it relies on presence. Number 1, the Landmaster became the most iconic element of the film despite its mixed reception. While Damnation Alley received mixed reviews upon release, one element stood out and endured over time: the Landmaster itself. The vehicle quickly became the most memorable part of the film, capturing the imagination of audiences even when other aspects of the story were less well received. Its unique design, practical construction, and on-screen presence made it an icon of 1970s science fiction. Over the years, the Landmaster has gained a cult following. Yes, with fans appreciating the effort and creativity that went into its creation. It represents a time when filmmakers relied on practical effects and real engineering to bring their ideas to life. This authenticity gives it a lasting appeal that continues to resonate with viewers. The Landmaster is often remembered independently of the film, standing as a symbol of ambitious design and practical filmmaking. Its legacy extends beyond Damnation Alley, influencing how large-scale vehicles are perceived in science fiction. For many fans, the Landmaster is the reason the film is still discussed today. The Landmaster isn't just a forgotten movie vehicle. It's a bold reminder of what practical filmmaking once achieved with raw creativity and real engineering. Every wheel, joint, and movement was built, not rendered. Oh, that's why it still feels real today. What makes it truly special is how it blurred the line between fiction and functionality. It looked like something from the future, yet it worked like something you could actually build. Decades later, the Landmaster still stands as a symbol of ambition, proving that sometimes the most unbelievable machines are the ones that actually existed.